Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a medical mystery that is, frankly, mind-blowing. We're looking at the mystery of the horse's heel and how it accidentally gave us the ultimate smallpox cure. I know, it sounds like a completely bizarre setup, right? I mean, how on earth does an infected horse's heel change human history forever? Well, to figure this out, we need to zoom in on the unexpected and honestly kind of dangerous consequences of humans changing our original relationship with the natural world. You see, long before modern medicine, the very way we interacted with the animals around us was setting the stage for an absolute game changer of a discovery. This source text makes this fascinating observation. It points out that humanity's love for luxury and amusement led us to fundamentally alter nature. We literally pulled wild animals out of forests and brought them into our homes and pastures. And, while that was super convenient for us, it inadvertently turned into a prolific source of brand new diseases. It was a classic case of unintended consequences. Reshaping nature meant taming a whole bunch of different animals. The author actually brings up John Hunter's experiments, which proved the dog is essentially just a degenerated wolf, a wolf that's now comfortably pillowed in a lady's lap. And alongside the cat, which is wonderfully described here as the little tiger of the forest, we also brought cows, pigs, sheep, and horses under our dominion for our own purposes. We totally reshaped their lives, and in doing so, we completely intertwined their biology with our own. And that brings us to the inciting incident of our mystery, which begins with the horse. Because of its newly domesticated state, the horse frequently suffered from this specific awful condition that farriers, horseshoers, called the grease. It showed up as this severe inflammation and swelling right in the heel of the animal, and this swollen heel secreted a fluid, a highly infectious matter that possessed some incredibly unique biological properties. Now, out in the dairy country, this setup built into a perfect storm. Back then, men and women shared farm chores indiscriminately. Our source describes a scenario where a farmhand is applying medical dressings to a horse suffering from the grease. After treating that incredibly infectious heel, the farmhand just doesn't wash his hands, pays absolutely no attention to cleanliness. So with these infectious particles still clinging to his fingers, he walks right over and starts milking a cow. It's just a simple act of carelessness, but boom, that is the exact moment a cross-species jump happens. The fallout from those unwashed hands is immediate, and it is devastating. This one incredibly unhygienic accident sparks a rapid chain reaction that sweeps across the entire farm. This terrifying new disease takes hold, infecting the livestock first and then jumping right back to the human servants working in the dairy. This fast-spreading sickness quickly earned a name: the cow pox. So what did this actually look like? Well, first, let's look at the cows. These poor animals would develop irregular pustules right on their nipples, and the source specifically calls out the color. It was this palish blue, or a rather livid, dark tint surrounded by severe inflammation. The cows would get visibly sick, and their milk production would just plummet. And if the farmers didn't act super fast to treat these sores with harsh chemical solutions like zinc or copper, those pustules would degenerate into phagedenic ulcers, meaning they would literally start destroying the surrounding tissue. But, as you might guess, the virus didn't stop with the cattle. From the infected udders of those cows, this morbid matter violently jumped straight to the hands and wrists of the dairymaids who were milking them. In humans, it started out looking like little blisters, almost like what you'd get from a burn. But as they developed, especially around the finger joints, they took on this highly distinct shape. They turned into superficial circular sores with edges that were raised up higher than the center. And yes, they carried that exact same unmistakable tint of blue. Now, if you thought the blisters sounded awful, the systemic toll on the human body was just visceral and terrifying. Once the virus was absorbed into the system, painful tumors would actually swell up in the victim's armpits. Their pulse would absolutely race. They'd get hit with intense shivering fits, followed by burning heat, vomiting, and deep, aching pains in their limbs. The headaches were so unbelievably severe that patients were sometimes thrown into bouts of pure delirium. According to the source, this intense, feverish nightmare usually dragged on for about 1 to 4 days. But even when the fever finally broke, the ordeal was far from over. Patients were left with these highly sensitive, ulcerated sores on their hands that were agonizingly slow to heal. And because they were in so much pain, patients would heedlessly scratch themselves. So, using their infected fingers, they'd rub their own lips, their nostrils, their eyelids, accidentally spreading these terrible sores right across their own faces. So, when we map this all out, the transmission journey is remarkably clear. The disease progressed from the swollen, infected heel of the domesticated horse right onto the nipple of the dairy cow, and finally directly into the human subject. It is a stunning, unbroken chain of cross-species contamination, all born from human agriculture and domestication. But here is the massive, world-changing plot twist. Out of this agonizing, multi-species chain reaction came a literal medical miracle. Enduring the cowpox did something completely incredible to the human body. As the source states, what makes this cowpox virus so singular is that the person who survives it is forever after secure from the infection of the smallpox. Think about that. Surviving this one weird accidental farm virus essentially granted a person lifelong immunity to the absolute deadliest, most feared disease of that entire era. And the level of protection granted by the cowpox was absolutely bulletproof. The text explains that once a person recovered from cowpox, it honestly didn't matter what you did to them. They could be heavily exposed to the airborne particles of smallpox, or doctors could literally take infectious smallpox matter and insert it deep into their skin. Nothing worked. The smallpox distemper simply could not take root in their body. They were totally immune. This discovery was nothing short of revolutionary. However, before people could feel totally safe and rush out to purposely get infected, the author drops a crucial life-or-death warning. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a massive red flag. There is another disease out there, a false spontaneous cowpox, and this false version offers absolutely zero protection against smallpox. Confusing the two could lead to a really deadly false sense of security. So it became absolutely crucial to distinguish the real cure from the fake one. You see, this false cowpox is a milder disease that just naturally and spontaneously appears on cows, and it's completely unconnected to the horse's grease. It usually pops up in the spring when cows switch from eating their winter food to fresh grass, or when you're suckling their young. And while it can cause some minor sores on a dairymaid's hands, it is totally incapable of producing any specific immune-boosting effects on the human body. When we contrast them directly, the differences are pretty stark. The true cowpox has that very distinct bluish or livid tint. It causes severe tissue-destroying ulcers, but it guarantees lifelong smallpox immunity. The false cowpox? It lacks the blue tint entirely. It's much milder, quickly turns into a simple scab, and doesn't bother the cow much. But most importantly, it provides what the author calls a delusive security. Basically, if you caught the false version and mistakenly believed you were immune, encountering real smallpox would almost certainly prove fatal. It really is an incredible narrative, isn't it? The careless, unwashed hands of an 18th century farm worker accidentally revealed a definitive cure for one of humanity's greatest scourges, hidden right there in nature's punishments. By closely observing the diseases we shared with the animals we domesticated, we unlocked the secret to vaccines. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to ponder today. What other miraculous medical breakthroughs are currently just waiting to be discovered in the biology of the animals we live alongside every single day? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.